and nothing can stop it. Nothing.
An ancient house.
It's haunted.
The alien terrors here on Earth.
Kelly, it's been a long time. Tonight, it's my turn.
Hi, this is Russell Todd from Chopping Mall, He Knows You're Alone, and Friday the 13th Part 2, and you're listening to The Hysteria Continues.
And indeed you are, and welcome back to The Hysteria Continues, episode 79. And tonight we're off to the prom with 1980s classic slasher movie Prom Night. Another listener pick, this time courtesy of William Neal. So thank you, William, for giving us another big one to get our hands on. And I think we're all looking forward to that, aren't we, Erik?
Yeah, I can't wait to go to the prom.
Yeah.
Billy Nolan asked me.
Oh, okay.
I'm going with Tommy Ross.
Blimey, it's going to be one of those shows. How are you, Erik? Are you all right?
Good. Yes.
Yeah. Good. I'm glad to hear it. And Nathan, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. And all I have to say is whoever did the opening, I don't know which one of you guys did it, but that was a really good job.
Oh, thank you. That was me. It was a bit of an epic.
That was you? It was really good. But I mean, practice makes perfect, and little Justin is always so perfect.
Indeed, yes. Thank you, Nathan, for your kind words. And Joseph, how are you doing?
I'm fair income.
Okay, well, and did you know?
I didn't know what that meant either.
Well, as we all know,
income.
We all know that Alan Dale was in Neighbours, so...
I wasn't going to bring it up, but you did, so
yeah.
Now it's on.
It's a shame that Alan Dale wasn't in cheerleader camp, because that would have been better, wouldn't it?
Or it's a shame he wasn't the girl with the big hair in Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4.
Yeah.
Yes, who turns into a cockroach.
That's the one.
Yes. So, well, yes, we are back, and in usual kind of Hysteria Continues tradition, we're recording this a little bit of out of sync, perhaps. Basically, we're recording this a week early, so for release in a week's time, which you won't know when you listen to this. But anyway, so I don't even know why I'm saying it, but. We are actually also recording at a different time. We're actually recording in the evening for me and Erik, and in the afternoon for Nathan and Joseph. So neither Nathan or Joseph will be yawning or falling asleep. Not they ever do anyway. Oh no, I heard that. But me and Erik might be. It's not quite.
Yes.
Is it your bedtime?
It's not.
It'll be my bedtime by the time we finish recording, I'm sure.
Yes. Yeah.
Unless we have another. Bloody Moon episode, in which case I'll probably have to go to work by the time we're finished recording.
Let's hope that doesn't happen. So, but yes, we are going to be doing Prom Night. I'm quite excited to be talking about this one. There's going to be a lot to talk about. But as it's only a week since we last recorded, we're probably not going to have much in the way to talk about recently seen, but we will kick off with that. So, Joseph, have you watched anything of note in the last week?
Yes, I watched The Descent Part 2. I had not seen it. I'm a big fan of The Descent, so, I figured it was time to watch The Descent Part 2. I actually watched it back-to-back with The Descent, and I didn't really care for it. It's basically just a retread of the first, but just not as well done. And I don't know the actor's name, but the guy playing the older man who leads them into the cave, I thought he was very just awful. And I didn't really care about any of the characters. Some of the plot twists here and there were just absurd. I mean, once you've seen these these albino blind creatures, tear people apart, it kind of gets boring after the second time. So, yeah, I wasn't a big fan of The Descent Part 2, I'm afraid.
What about when one of the monsters is a big poo? That was quite fun.
Well, that was kind of an odd scene. I'll give it, you never see that in a horror film. So
you certainly don't. You never see Jason going to the toilet.
No, so I'll give him that. But and it was kind of disturbing and gross. But I just wasn't a fan of the film. I love the first one. Don't get me wrong, but not a Descent 2 fan.
Well, the ending is unbelievably stupid. I hate the way they ended that movie.
Yeah.
Like, whose bright idea was that? It really, like, and without spoiling it, to me, it kind of builds up, like why things are going on the way they're happening. And then, like, the ending just, like, relies on a cheap shock factor. And it just kind of does away with any, like, humanity that the movie might have built up at the moment, I guess.
But it doesn't make
cheap scares.
It doesn't actually make any sense either, does it? It depends which.
No.
If you've seen you've seen the original. If you've seen the original American ending and the British endings, they were different, weren't they? Because in the American ending, am I right in thinking it's Erik? She gets away.
That's part one.
That part one, yeah. But in the British one, she doesn't. She finds herself back in. That it was all a dream, wasn't it? Her escape was all a dream, and she was in fact kind of just about to die.
Well, the British ending is much better, much better to part one.
I haven't seen. I saw The Descent Part 2 when it came out, and I haven't seen it since. And I can't remember having. Well, I have no great desire to rewatch it, so it kind of I can't even remember anything about it really. So it didn't. Not even the poo.
How can you not? Surely that would have been etched in your mind.
I'm sure it would have been, but it obviously wasn't. So it should have been. But yeah, so it's not something that's stuck with me, as it were. Mm-hmm. So.
The only thing that has stuck with me about that movie is the horrible ending. I have never been more angry at an ending since Eden Lake, but I won't get into that.
I thought you might bring up Eden Lake, another British film. Yes,
the ending to The Descent Part 2 didn't bother me, I have to say.
I can't even remember.
I thought the film was okay. I mean, it was certainly a backward step from the first one, but I thought it was decent enough.
Well, it's the epitome of a pointless sequel, really, wasn't it? It didn't do anything new particularly.
Yeah, and it had to really stretch credibility to get the main character from part one to go back into the caves in part two.
Yes.
Which is always a problem.
Yes, indeed. So, yes, well, thank you, Joseph. Is anything else?
Yeah, just I've been watching the From Dusk Till Dawn, the series. They basically made a series out of the movie, and it's not very good. The problem is that, well, obvious for one, the actors playing the Gecko brothers, they're no George Clooney and they're no Quentin Tarantino. And Quentin Tarantino's a pretty bad actor, but when you can't, measure up to Quentin Tarantino as far as acting goes, it kind of makes you want to roll your eyes. And the problem with the show is that all the stuff I liked about the movie, where they just arrive at the vampire bar and there's like a huge body count and it's all campy and gory, you get that in the series, but it's like very minimal. And then the rest is like so po-faced and like takes itself too seriously with this huge like vampire mythology that I just don't care about. So it's an interesting idea to stretch it out over a series, but it's just not done very well.
But that seems very strange to make a TV series of a very campy movie and make it really po-faced. It kind of seems to be missing the essence. I haven't seen it. I'm too busy with other stuff. I don't think it's not showing over here yet anyway, but I've no great desire. I wasn't a huge fan of the first film. It was all right. What?
Neither was I.
It was okay, but it was nothing. I didn't think it was anything. It's fun. It was a campy. It was kind of basically 80s or straight to video 80s monster flick given a big budget, wasn't it? Which I think was the whole point of it.
Well, yeah, I mean, From Dusk Till Dawn, it's not a wonderful movie, but it's a lot of fun. It's just it's really quick and breezy, but this is just like, get to the point already. Just stop lingering on this stuff I don't care about. I just want to see people getting eviscerated, and it's just bleh.
Okay, right. Well, I'll probably give that one a miss. What about you, Nathan? Have you watched that?
I watched like the first 3 episodes, but it just got so boring. I mean, after 3 full episodes, I mean, it's still like, I don't even, in 3 episodes I saw like the Gecko brothers hadn't even met up with the family yet after 3 episodes. And I'm just, I'm like Joe, I'm like, I can't just sit around and wait, on the good stuff to happen. I mean, if they were going to do a show, why didn't they just do their own thing? I mean, to do a remake of a movie, I mean, the whole time you're watching it, you're just wishing you were watching the movie. So
is it a remake of the film, just stretched out over 12?
Just stretched out over 12 episodes.
Wow. Because they're doing that with Fargo at the moment, which I started watching. But
could work though.
Yeah, well, it's a different case. It's not the same. Yeah. I don't quite know why it's even called Fargo. I'm to be honest, I haven't looked that much into it. But I've watched the first episode, which I thought was pretty good. But
I'll give the From Dusk Till Dawn series this one point. This last episode that I watched, it was actually really good. It was like it got to the point finally, and I think there might be like 2, maybe 3 episodes left. So I'll probably watch those just so I could say I finished the whole season. But unless the finale just kind of like wows me, I won't be returning for the second season.
Well, wasn't there some direct-to-video sequels to the first film?
Yeah, the first direct-to-video sequel from Dusk Till Dawn 2 starred Robert Patrick as a bank robber, and he's in this series as he's playing the Harvey Keitel role in this series.
Okay.
And I never saw the third one, so I can't really comment on that.
No. Okay. Right. Well, thank you, Joseph. Is that you, Spence?
Yeah, that's me.
Okay. Right. Well, Nathan, how about you?
I haven't watched any horror movies recently. The only 2 that I watched was 80s comedies. So anybody that loves 80s comedies should get a kick out of Mannequin and Summer School. And Summer School has like a horror type scene in it.
Mannequin is just horror.
Yeah, but Mannequin to me is so bad, it's entertaining.
I like that guy's sunglasses in Mannequin.
Oh yeah, Hollywood.
Well, he has like 50 different pair.
Oh, does he? Oh, sorry. My memories of Mannequin are vague, and the
I wish
Sorry?
mine were vague.
only time I ever see it these days is as whenever VH1 shows that Starship video. Nothing's going to stop us now. Is that the one?
I think I was like 12 or 13. I think I was like 12 or 13 when I first saw it, like way back in the mid to late 80s or whatever. And I was like, wow, this movie's so great. And I hadn't seen it since, and we watched it at Greg's, and I was like, God, this is just terrible.
I mean, to me, it's a nostalgia thing. Like, I loved it as a kid, so I'm still going to love it today. It's like some people out there with, stuff like we've talked about before, like The Goonies. Like, because, I mean, I don't like that movie at all, but, I mean, it's like a classic because people love it for nostalgia, maybe.
Wasn't there a sequel as well to that, Mannequin 2?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I want to watch
It's
it.
even worse. It's even worse.
I'm going to pick it for next time we go to Greg's.
Okay. As
God,
long
I
as
thought you were going to say
I
I'm going to pick it next time for the
attending
podcast.
yeah, hopefully
It's
not.
kind of a slasher. You could.
If it was a slasher, I would pick it for the podcast. Do you guys consider Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory a slasher? Because the kids do disappear one by one.
Well,
But it's
could view
their
it.
own doing.
Yeah,
They
that's
do
true.
cause their own demise. Well, I don't think they die, but still.
So, no, well, excellent. Well, thank you, Nathan. What about you, Eric?
Okay, well, sticking with the TV theme, I was watching, I finished watching the series of Inside Number 9. Did you watch that one, Justin?
I watched about half of them.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's a 6-part series. It's done by the team who half of the team that brought us The League of Gentlemen, which is a British, I suppose you'd call it a sketch comedy with very, very sort of dark horror elements laced through it. And this is much the same. It's 6 different episodes. So it's like 6 short films all based around a house that happens to have number 9 as the address, but they're not connected in any other way. Most of them are kind of thrillers, not thrillers, sort of tales of the unexpected type things with a little bit of a twist at the end. But the last episode in the series, which I finally got to watch this week, is very much a horror, and it's actually almost identical in plot to Ty West's House of the Devil. I don't know if you saw that episode, Justin. It was called The Harrowing.
Yes, I did. That was my favourite one. Yeah.
Yes, it was great. I was thinking of you actually because it's basically this girl goes to you know why.
Yes.
This girl goes to mind. She goes to a house sit basically for this old couple, and it's this big spooky mansion, and she invites one of her friends along. When her friends arrive, she's sort of a prototype goth, which I thought was kind of fun. And what happens is there's an elderly man asleep in a bed upstairs in the attic and up behind a locked door, and sinister things happen when they go to investigate a noise up there. I thought it was excellent. It had laughs, and it was genuinely scary, and it was the one episode in the series that actually had a supernatural tinge, and I just thought that, the whole series I thought was superb, but that last episode in particular I think would appeal to any horror buff.
I want to see it. Is it available in the States?
Well, it's only just screened over here on BBC Two, so I don't know.
I can find it. If it's on BBC, I can find it.
Yeah, it's called
Okay.
Inside Number 9. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Have you
Eric,
seen
do you,
the?
do you have a supernatural minge? Because you said supernatural tinge, and
Yes.
sorry.
You're so childish.
What's a minge? I don't even know what that
Mortified.
is.
You don't know what a minge is, Nathan?
No.
Well, Justin, you explain what a minge is.
How can I put it politely? Sorry, you got me in a little bit of a flap, Eric. That was a clue, Nathan.
Yes.
I didn't get it.
Flap. flap.
It was a minge is a British slang word for a vagina.
Oh, okay.
So there you go.
Interesting.
Yes, well, that's
Never
what
heard that.
as you learn all these new things on Hysteria Continues. So, yes.
Last week, I learned I'm fed income.
Exactly.
Well, that's Australian.
And I've been
though.
wanting to.
It's Australian.
Oh yeah, I've been wanting to call people tossers here lately. I like that term.
Yeah.
Toss
It is
is a good
term.
word, and wanker, that's a good one as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the British have got the best swear words.
Actually, I think you do too.
Well,
the
you can
Irish?
say them over here, and people don't know what you're talking about, so you can get away with it.
Well, exactly. And in Ireland, do you have any particular swear words like that kind of thing, like wanker or tosser?
No, but there is a particularly Irish slang word for vagina that's ghee, which is a popular ingredient in Indian cuisine as well.
Yeah.
So whenever you hear the word ghee, you have to giggle and stuff.
Right.
You're so childish, Eric.
I know.
Oh, Eric.
Also, this one is quite good. Mickey is a slang term for penis over here.
Okay.
So when Disney released a game for the Nintendo and the Xbox and that called Epic Mickey, everyone in Ireland burst out laughing.
I bet you Ireland loves that song "Hey Mickey" from the 80s.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Yeah, Tony
Certainly
Basil,
do.
who was
Yeah.
in Slaughterhouse Rock, wasn't she, as a ghost?
Yes.
A little bit of trivia. So, getting back on track, Eric, have you
Yes.
seen anything else?
Okay, I finally watched, as I was saying on the last podcast, Rocky Horror Picture Show. I couldn't
Oh,
think of
yeah.
its name.
Okay.
And yes, I did like it. Yeah, I was expecting not to like it because, as Nathan was saying with the Goonies, I thought, after whatever, 38 years old, the film. After waiting that long to watch it, I thought it couldn't live up to the hype, but I did really enjoy it because I wasn't expecting to. I just thought it was a lot of fun. I was surprised how good Tim Curry is because I don't think he is a homosexual man, is he? Or am I mistaken?
I don't know, actually.
No, I don't
'Cause
think he is, but I don't know.
Yeah, because he makes a terrific drag queen in Rocky Horror, I thought. And I thought the songs I liked. I mean, a lot of the songs I hadn't heard, believe it or not. So, and really enjoyed it. And I was watching some, interesting behind-the-scenes stuff on the DVD as well, which is good. So, yeah, consider me converted to the Rocky Horror cause.
Excellent.
And I finally understood what the title meant because there's a character in it called Rocky Horror. So there we go.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And finally, I watched a film called Trapped, although I think it's also known as Baker County, USA. It's a William Fruitt movie from 1982, and I just mention it quickly because it has a connection to Prom Night. Besides being Canadian as well, it's got Joy Thompson in it, who plays Jude in Prom Night, and she's part of this quartet of young people who fall foul of a small rural community who are led by this evil character played by Henry Silva, and they witness him tarring, feathering, and killing a guy for shagging, I think it's his wife, or maybe it's his daughter. I'm not 100% sure, I can't remember. But because they witnessed the killing, they are in jeopardy then, and it's one of those deliverance-type movies. It was quite good, quite good. Nothing spectacular, but definitely worth a watch, I think.
Yeah, I've not seen that one. How about you, Nathan and Joseph?
Yeah, I saw it a long, long time ago. I don't remember much about it, though.
Yeah, it's not one that would linger long in the memory, but I mean, it's certainly will pass the time.
Okay. What about you, Nathan?
Joy Thompson, was unrecognizable in it. I had to look up her character name because she doesn't have her crimped hair like she does in Prom Night.
Right. Okay.
I thought you were talking about a different Trapped, but no, I haven't seen that one. I've seen the one with the woman who's like trapped in the mall overnight with a killer. It's pretty good.
Oh, sounds good.
Which one?
It's like made in like 1990 or 91, and she's trapped in the mall, and like the guy's in there stalking her, and it's got a lot of cat and mouse. So.
Oh, that's the one.
There's a few movies like that, like P1, and there's one called Lower Level from the early 90s, where they're trapped in like these parking garages or malls or stores.
Trapped was done by Fred Walton, who did When a Stranger Calls.
That's right.
And April Fool's Day.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
It wasn't an office block in Trapped, because there was another Trapped which has got James Brolin, I think, in it, and he's in a mall being he gets trapped in overnight with guard dogs.
Yes,
Yeah,
I can
70s.
confirm. Yeah,
Yeah.
I can confirm that the Trapped by Fred Walton is an office block, a high-rise office building.
Okay. I've somehow I thought it was a mall, but it's been a long time since I've seen it. It's good, though.
Well, that's the one that I've got. I think I've mentioned it before, but I've got Trapped with the Fred Walton one. I bought it, but the tape inside was the James Brolin dog mall thriller called Trapped as well.
Oh.
Which they were both released on CIC or one of the old movie labels as well, so it made it even more confusing. So I've never actually seen the one set in the office block, but I'd like to.
I think you'd like it.
Because it's a bit like I'm the Girl He Wants to Kill, that Brian Clemens one, isn't it, in the office block where she's chased around by the killer.
Yeah, and to me, like, Trapped keeps up that kind of level of tension through most of it. I mean, something happens about, I don't know, maybe midway through, and it kind of takes the suspense off a little bit because, to me, I think it's more suspenseful when it's just her against the killer.
Cool. Okay. Right. Well, thank you. Just a couple that I've seen since we recorded last. First one was a new film called Magic, with Juno Temple, and is it Michael Cera? Kira? How do you pronounce his last name? Sarah. Okay. And it's just, it came out a little while ago, and I got it on DVD through Love Film or Amazon Prime or whatever they're calling themselves now. Do you know this film? Have you seen it?
No.
No. Well, it's basically it's set in Chile, and it's got Juno Temple, who goes on basically a bit like With Nell and I on the worst holiday imaginable. Basically, she goes. I think it's a cousin. Meets up with her cousin's friends. They're going off to a remote kind of cabin in the woods in Chile, and her cousin at the last minute gets called away to supposedly in inverted commas do an exam. But Juno Temple's character doesn't know any of the other people in there, but she gets taken to this cabin with them when her cousin's back in the main city, and she just basically can't. She hasn't slept for something like 48 hours, so she's starting hallucinating a bit through lack of sleep. And it's kind of a strange film because she keeps on thinking she's getting paranoid. These people that she doesn't know. Not exactly out to get her, but she'll be like sitting on the sofa reading a book, and then in the background you'll see the character staring at her out of focus. And when she looks up, they're not looking at her, and things like that. So it's all very off kilter, and just basically goes from bad to worse. And it doesn't turn into the kind of horror movie the setup suggests it will do. It goes off in a very different kind of angle. But I thought it held my attention. It's not an exciting movie by any stretch. It's more of a mood piece, really, but it's pretty well played. And Michael Cera plays a really strange, kind of quite camp, really annoying, kind of like geeky. I mean, he always plays geeky characters, but he's playing a strange character in one very odd bit. I mean, he masturbates in one scene, not for real. But in another one, can you imagine? And another one, he gets his face pushed into a vagina. So it's that kind of slightly odd film. But and it ends in
that's nightmarish.
It's for you, Erik. Yes, the minge stream. It kind of so it ends in a very different way to how it would normally. I think a lot of people would find it really irritating. It's got that whole kind of Roman Polanski. What's the Tenant feel to it, and you're not really sure if what you're seeing is what's really happening, or if she's going mad, or they're really out to get her, and it just. But yeah, it's worth a watch if it doesn't annoy you. It's one of those kind of films. So the other film I saw, which I hadn't seen since the cinema back in 1997, I think, was An American Werewolf in Paris, which is not a film that I remember seeing at cinema and thinking was pretty awful back then, and it's still pretty bad now. But it's not as has a bit more charm to it. It's not, it really doesn't do the horror comedy balance nearly as well as the John Landis original, American Werewolf in London at all, by any stretch. The whole frat boy humour and all that kind of stuff it completely overpowers the horror. And also, unfortunately, it's got one of those kind of the Alien 3 problems, which is the early days of CGI meant that the CGI looks really bad. And in Alien 3, there's quite a few scenes with the alien where when they're using CGI, where it looks like that it's the aliens or the werewolf in this case isn't really there. There's no weight to them. They just they look like a kind of computer game sort of character. But it's kind of fun. The main characters have a bit of chemistry, and it's still quite an entertaining movie. So I think with a little bit of hindsight and knowing it wasn't a particularly good movie, kind of enjoyed it, a fair bit. What about you guys? Have you seen that movie recently?
Not
Just
recently.
once.
I saw it on video it would have been when it came out, probably 1998, I'd say, and I knew that the reviews were really sniffy. So, I mean, I remember thinking it's not as bad as everyone made out, but I had no desire to ever see it again. I can't remember one solitary thing about it, to be honest. But I remember thinking it wasn't that bad. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Joseph? You seen it?
Yeah, it's like Eric. I saw it when it came out on video, and I don't really remember much about it.
No, fair enough. And Nathan, what about you?
I mean, I'm kind of in the same boat. I don't remember a lot because it's been so long since I've seen it, but I do remember loving it.
Okay, but of course.
Of course.
Yes. Yeah. And the last film we watched yesterday actually was for my birthday. I borrowed a projector from work and got some people around to watch House, the 1977 Japanese mindfuck of a movie, which kind of went down. And some people really liked it, and some people hated it. Somebody was there said it's the worst movie she'd ever seen, but she said that was a compliment. So
did that ruin your birthday?
No. Well, she said it was the worst movie I've ever seen, but I really enjoyed it. So that was fine. But House is it's very difficult to describe, isn't it? It's a kind of it's just. I think someone asked me about it, and I think I'm right in thinking that it was described to the director, or he took his daughter's suggestions for making a horror movie and actually used them. So, which is why you have one of the characters turn into a load of bananas, quite literally. Have you seen it? You've seen it, Eric, haven't you?
Yeah, I have. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What about you guys, Eric and Joseph? Have you ever watched it?
Eric.
Oh, sorry,
Joseph.
Joseph and Nathan. Sorry,
I haven't seen it.
No. What about you? No. Oh, you should. You should, because Eric.
What's
it's
it called again?
House, 1977, Japanese.
It's like those crazy Indonesian movies, like Queen of Black Magic, that type of thing, where literally anything can happen and it doesn't have to make sense because he mixes things like animation, and there's a scene where someone's severed head jumps out of a well and bites someone on the arse. And there's a scene, somebody gets eaten by a grand piano, and just absolutely bizarre things. So, and the thing is, for the first maybe 30, 40 minutes, there is some kind of semblance of a narrative in it, but then it just goes completely off the rails. And I mean, I don't know about you, Justin, but I haven't a clue really what's going on in the final half hour of that film at all, or what the conclusion is all about.
No, but they've all the characters, because it's like about 7 schoolgirls, and they've all got names like there's a fat girl called Mac, because she's named after the English word stomach, and then there's Kung Fu, who is who basically does kung fu to and she has that kind of like monkey-esque music, doesn't she, whenever she does kung fu? So if anything gets in the way, she'll suddenly fly through the air and kick it. And then there's Fantasy, who is the girl who sees all the things and no one believes her because her name's Fantasy. So it's very bizarre, and it's got, like you say, animation, and there's an evil cat in it, which has got to be seen to be believed, who also plays the piano.
There's also a really terrifying attack by duvet covers and futons.
Futons, yeah, death by futon, yeah.
Speaking of cat.
What?
There's your opportunity.
Oh, and a quick. Here we go. Like it's like the professionals that we are.
Yeah, seamless.
Well, I was also. Sorry, go on.
I was going to say our top 3s will be coming back eventually. So.
Yes, and also we would like to say thank you to everyone who has posed a question for us to answer on the Facebook group, and we are going to be covering quite a few of those, I think, on the next show, aren't we? Mm-hmm. Yes.
And not to bring this show down on a sour note, but since we last recorded, Eric's favorite actor had passed away.
Yes. Boo-hoo. Boo-hoo actually would be a nice shortening of Bob Hoskins' name. Boo-hoo.
Yeah, B.O.
Like Subo.
B.O.
Yeah.
That's, no. Well, yes.
No, Boo-hoo.
Boo-hoo. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yes, very, very sad. And it was nice to see the outpouring of sympathy that Erik got, wasn't it?
It was. Yeah, thank you very much, everyone. But I was okay. I'm strong.
Just imagine if Toya died.
Don't even think about it.
Well, I do think
and
about
actually,
it.
Her career's already done that.
Justin got one of the best birthday gifts ever because he got a Toya song posted on his wall.
Oh, he did, yes.
That is true, actually. I'll tell you the other thing.
Thunder in the Mountains.
Do you know what the other things I got? I honestly, these are presents I got yesterday. I got one is making ornaments out of cat fur book. And also I got a doll that looks very much like the doll in Curtains. You know, the one that holds the arms
cool.
out. But somebody had given her a merkin. A fur merkin downstairs.
Now I'm a little confused, Justin. Is your birthday today, or was it the other day?
It was the other day.
So it's the second?
It's the third.
Third, okay.
I use the second we talked about it, every year we mention this, don't we? I use it as my way of fooling internet thieves in case they try and steal my personality and all my details.
Well, mine's this Thursday, so we're very close together.
Okay. Well, yes, we are. But of course, it's going to confuse everyone anyway because it's going to be a week out of kilter.
Yeah.
So nobody's going to know what's going on. But
I died on my birthday, by the way. So.
Okay. Yes. Well, it'll be a nice tribute to you and to Bob Hoskins as well. So we feel your pain, Erik.
I'm surprised you didn't cancel your birthday celebrations.
Well, I wouldn't go that far.
As a mark of respect.
No.
You should have shown Long Good Friday's shower scene on the projector.
Oh dear, no. So let's swiftly moving on. We are, like we say, we're going to cover some of the questions on the next thing, and maybe the top threes will be making a welcome return in the not too near distant future. But before that, I think we have a date at Hamilton High, don't we? Prom Night is a tense psychological thriller set in a big city high school where the teenage students are preparing for their annual prom night, and the excitement of the coming day is evident. But a tragic event from the past intrudes into celebrations when a crazed killer stalks darkened corridors seeking revenge for something that happened a long time ago. And the story leads along a trail of building tension towards a final, horrifying climax when mounting terror becomes a nightmare of sudden, violent death. Now, that was the synopsis from the one of the original photos that was sent out to the press, which I've got a bunch of, which is basically selling it to journalists. So, yes, Prom Night from 1980, one of the pretty much the first... well, not the first, but one of the kind of the biggest successes that followed on from Halloween the same summer as Friday the 13th. Prom Night, I've got a bit of a checkered relationship with this film because I do love it, but I kind of love the idea of Prom Night more perhaps than the film itself. I kind of always want to love Prom Night more than I do. I think there's a fantastic slasher movie in there. And Prom Night is still a great little slasher movie, but it could have been so much more if there had been kind of more suspense, more chases and everything. When Prom Night is good, it's very, very, very good. When Prom Night is bad, it's still pretty entertaining. But so I'd be interested to hear what other people think, because Prom Night is one of the films that's coming up for a bit of a renaissance. We've obviously got the new Blu-ray coming out, which a lot of people are very excited about, and I'm very excited about seeing it too. But yeah, I'd be interested in hearing what other people think. So, Nathan, do you love Prom Night? I imagine you do.
I was about to say, I think you can already tell what I'm going to say. Yes. Of course, I love Prom Night. I love of course, the opening scene with the kids in the school is good. I always wonder what game they were playing. It's sort of like hide and seek, but they're playing killer, like where they, I guess, like the killer's getting you and something like that. It's interesting. And then, of course, the one little girl actually ends up getting killed for real. But no, I mean, Prom Night's a really good movie. And I know a lot of people have kind of given it a little flack for, they say the opening, I guess it's a little too slasher light. I guess the slasher doesn't kick in until later on in the movie, but I liked it. I like getting to know the characters, and I like the ominous phone calls, whereas I would say that Melissa from Friday the 13th Part 7 is probably my favorite slasher movie, bitch. Wendy is right there in the top 3 as well. I mean, she's just phenomenal. I mean, I love her character, and I love, I think Eddie Benton does a great job playing Wendy. Like Erik picked the exchange between Wendy and Jamie Lee Curtis early on in the movie as one of his favorite dialogue bits, and if he hadn't have chosen it, I probably would have, because it's a great dialogue scene where they're kind of arguing, but in a very passive aggressive kind of manner. I like it. Let's see. And she has an amazing chase scene, whereas I think we're kind of cheated out of a good chase scene at the end, because, spoiler alert, the killer's not really after Jamie Lee Curtis, so she don't really have a chase scene. But, Wendy has a really good one, so, it kind of makes up for it, and it's got that great moment where Lou gets decapitated and his head rolls down the walkway there on the stage in front of everybody, causing chaos. I mean, I could kind of see where Justin's coming from. That, I mean, there are things in it, that they probably could have done better, but ultimately, as it is, I'm also agree with Justin that it's still a good slasher movie, and a lot of fun, and a product of its time. I love the disco dance moves, and that's my tuppence.
Okay, well, thank you, Nathan. How about you, Joseph?
Well, I would disagree with both of you. I think Prom Night is amazing in every aspect. It's actually in my top 10 of all time. I like a lot of the cheese and a lot of the character building. Of course, I do love the ominous phone calls, and I love Wendy's chase scene. But the one thing I like about Prom Night that very, very few films, very few slasher films get right, is that it has like a human element to it where these characters feel like real people. They kind of did that in My Bloody Valentine, where they're kind of blue-collar workers. Here it's like these feel like real, high school students. And, getting into spoiler territory, we spoil everything, but the murderer, who the murderer turns out to be, it's Jamie Lee Curtis's brother. They have that exchange where she locks eyes with him before he takes his mask off, and she realizes who the murderer is. And it's got this human moment, this real touching moment to where when she figures it out that, not very many movies have been able to do as well. It's one of those. Also, it's one of those nostalgia trips where it's a movie I watched over and over, and so I might be biased to liking it as much as I do because I've seen it so many times. But it's a top 10 favorite for me. It is a little slow going in the first 30 to 45 minutes, but that doesn't bother me. I think all the ominous phone calls and the building up to the prom, it just works fabulously, and the whole final 20 to 25 minutes inside the school with all the chase scenes and the mayhem. I think it's just great, and it's capped off with that that decapitated head on the catwalk, and then Alex going after his sister and the other guy, and it's just that whole final battle. I don't know what else to say. It's just a perfect movie to me. It's just so good.
What do you mean you disagree with me? I said I loved it.
Well, you said you could see where Justin's coming from. That
I could see it, but
yeah.
I don't necessarily agree with him. I can see his perspective.
But yeah, that's my 2 cents. I adore Prom Night. I think it's fabulous.
Well, I'd be interested to hear what Erik thinks.
Well, I 100% agree with Justin this time because I do love the film, but for me, the strengths of the film are the non-horror elements. I think the horror elements are kind of clumsily handled. There's kind of a lack of suspense in most of the murder sequences. This is something I've always felt. I mean, watching it again this week. Stop gasping. I've only slightly changed my opinion from when I first saw this film in the 80s, and that's the Wendy chase scene. When you're watching it on a DVD, it's slightly clearer, so there is a degree of suspense. You can actually see what's going on for a change, whereas on the old VHS, it was just, you could see this sort of figure running around in the dark for about 20 minutes, it felt like. But I mean, hopefully this new Blu-ray is going to improve things even more. I do like the prologue. As you said, the kids are playing the strangest game, and they're incredibly sinister as well. The way they're chanting killers are coming, and for a second I thought they were going to invoke the spirit of the terribly bland US pop stroke rock group The Killers, but thankfully they didn't, because that would have bored me to death. And I have no complaints, of the film being slow, because I love all the high school hijinks stuff. The interplay, particularly, as Nathan was saying, between Jamie Lee Curtis and Eddie Benton is fantastic. And it's one of those films where Justin described it quite well a few times before, where you could take the horror element out of the film completely and it would still be entertaining to watch. I mean, I could watch this film if it was a John Hughes high school movie or something, where it ends with Eddie Benton slipping on a banana skin and everyone points and laughs at her, and then Jamie Lee Curtis is crowned the prom queen and the credits roll. I mean, that would have suited me fine. One of the problems, and I think Nathan touched on it as well, is that Jamie Lee Curtis isn't really given a final girl role at all, because she's completely unaware there is a killer until the last 2 minutes of the film. So there's no time for any kind of extended suspense sequence like there is at the end of Halloween or Terror Train. But as you were mentioning, they couldn't really, because the killer doesn't want to kill Jamie Lee Curtis, because obviously the killer is her brother. And I do love that ending, though, the way they lock eyes and she realizes it's her brother, and it's a really somber, downbeat ending for a film that's been quite cheesy up until that point. And I have to say, I really, really love that ending. It's really strong. I always feel sorry. Like as the credits are rolling, I'm thinking, God, poor Jamie Lee Curtis. How is she going to cope after this? But even worse, her mother, who's already borderline insane after the death of Robin, the child in the prologue, gets killed. How on earth is she going to cope now? She's going to, I don't know. That was a possible sequel, I think, having the mother turn into Mrs. Voorhees. But I do love the film as a whole. I mean, I love the extended disco dance sequence between Nick and Kim. Some of their moves are sort of top notch, I have to say. The soundtrack is great as well. I mean, I do have a soft spot for disco music, and these are all original songs, as far as I can tell, done for the movie, and they're all quite catchy, I have to say. So I have to say it's a big thumbs up for me. I mean, I do love Prom Night, but I can see why a lot of people wouldn't. I screened this at a party one night with friends. We screened Friday the 13th first. Everyone loved it. They thought it was terrifying and they all jumped at the right moments. Then afterwards they had a choice between Evil Dead or Prom Night, and they all chose Prom Night, and nobody really could stay awake for it. They were all a bit bored. Yeah. So it's not really a party movie, I discovered that evening. But I have a real soft spot for it. But I mean, if they could have created horror sequences with the intensity of Friday the 13th or My Bloody Valentine or The Prowler or any of those, it would be definitely one of my favorite films of all time. But because I find the horror sequences a bit lackluster, that's why wouldn't be in my top 5, or probably not my top. Well, it probably would make my top 10, I'd have to say, because I just adore Jamie Lee Curtis in anything. So,
See, I don't find the horror sequences to be that clumsy. I mean, especially the moment where he opens up the back of the van. I thought that was really startling. Where she's in there with Slick.
That's because.
What do you think of the Slick character, by the way, Eric?
I'm indifferent to Slick, to be honest.
Because he's kind of portly, and I thought maybe you'd.
No.
And what if he took his shirt off and he had like hairy shoulders or something?
Well, maybe. Why? What do you think of? Is it Jude? Is the character? Yeah, Jude. What do you think of Jude?
I could go either way with Jude.
If she took off her bra and she had hairy shoulders, would you like?
Yeah, I'd love that.
Yeah. I think one of the problems, I think you hit it on the head, I think, Eric, is that the clumsily handled horror sequences. I think the Wendy chase is fantastic, and I think that the last third of the film works really effectively as a slasher movie. But you probably know this, or you may or may not know this, but the telephone calls to the four that were involved in the original murder of Robin, and also the escape killer plot, that was all added in by, I think it's Peter Simpson, at a later date, when the film, he thought there wasn't enough horrific elements to the film. So I think that's partly why the film has a bit of an odd pace to it, because if you imagine, if you didn't have the escape killer angle, which Jamie Lee Curtis famously bitched about because she said it wasn't in the script that she read, and you didn't have the phone calls, then you would have had the opening sequence of the kids accidentally killing Robin and covering up the crime and leading to pretty much every post-Scream horror movie setup ever. This crime that should never be spoken about. You would have had nothing up until the first murder of was Kelly or Jude, whichever one was the first one to die. So it's kind of, that's why I think it's a little bit clumsy. I think if there was another chase scene in there akin to the one with Wendy, or there was a little bit more. The ending, I think, I love the fact, you have the heads on the the dance floor or on the kind of the walkway. I think it's a fantastic trash aesthetic to it. I think it's great, and then everyone screams and runs out, but then you're just left with, as you say, with Jamie Lee Curtis, who's not the person intended to be the victim. It's actually her boyfriend, Casey, whoever. It was Casey
Nick.
Stevens, wasn't it? Nick, who was was the one who was intended, and so you have this fight, but it's a little bit anticlimactic. And I agree, with Joseph, you've got that fantastic ending with Jamie Lee Curtis is a much better actress than you would necessarily see in a lot of these films. I was also going to play. I've got a little TV spot here for the film, which again I think amplifies or shows off its charms pretty well. Here it is.
Everyone in the senior class has a date for prom night. But someone has come to the prom alone. Someone who watches in the empty corridors. Someone who follows, silent and unseen. Someone who waits until no one can help. Prom night. If you're not back by midnight, you won't be coming home. Rated R.
Starts Friday at a theater or drive-in near you. Check your local paper for theater locations.
I was going to say that's got to be one of the best taglines ever, isn't it? Don't you think?
I was just thinking that, yeah.
The other thing I was going to say about Jamie Lee Curtis, just because before we get onto background, is that the thing that struck me as odd about all the films that Jamie Lee Curtis made after Halloween, bar probably Halloween 2, is that they didn't actually capitalise on having her in the film, did they? If you look at all the artwork for films like The Fog and Prom Night, Jamie Lee Curtis it doesn't scream the star, of Halloween. This, Scream Queen from Halloween is in Prom Night. It doesn't. Her role is almost kind of played down. I don't think they really knew what they had until she'd left the horror genre. Because
Leslie Nielsen gets top billing as well in the in the credits,
which is funny, isn't it? For what is essentially being sold as a teenage horror movie,
completely.
And he wasn't. This is one of the last movies he did as a straight man, as it were. But yeah, so that I always found that odd, and I think it was, I think if they knew Jamie Lee Curtis was in line for the role, or they might have rewritten it to have a slightly different role for her, perhaps. I wonder what she would have been like in the Wendy role.
That would have been interesting.
She would have been good, I'd say, because apparently that's closer to her real life character than Laurie Strode would be.
Oh, Eric.
But no, she's sarcastic, is what I mean.
She's fiery. She's a fiery woman, isn't she? Yeah, she's not the. She's certainly the opposite. She's not like Laurie Strode, is she? No. I mean, she was a bit tougher in this, wasn't she? But she was kind of like the tougher, likable kind of character.
I thought she was the toughest in Terror Train, though.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, her character in Terror Train was like, wouldn't take anything off anybody. And this one, what I liked is with Kim is that she never let Wendy get under her skin ever. I'm like, Wendy would always try to, make comments or, would try to do anything to like make Kim get angry. But, Kim never really got angry at her.
It's funny, isn't it? I also thought, because the other thing with the Prom Night is it's not just ripping off Halloween, because it obviously is ripping off Halloween. The whole thing when Slick and Jude, is it, when he's kind of going past on his passion wagon trying to get her in, and it's basically, you might as well be in the same streets as Haddonfield, didn't you? That whole suburban kind of walking, the kind of the shady suburban pathways. But also, of course, the other film it's ripping off, and it's something that a lot of the reviews at the time said was Carrie, because you've got like basically pretty much a similar setup, haven't you, to Carrie? This idea of the jilted, the kind of the angry kind of classmate trying to plotting her revenge. But the fact is, with this, it was Carrie was definitely more of an adult movie, wasn't it, in some ways? Because Nancy Allen has the same. It's kind of basically the Eddie Benton character was like Nancy Allen character, but Carrie had a kind of a nastier vein. I kind of guessed this, but I thought it was funny all the way through this that Wendy kept on saying, "I don't anyone to get hurt," didn't she? So even though she was a bad girl, she still had concern for others, which I thought was a interesting little touch, really.
I got a question for you. If you were in Lou's position and you were like being used by Wendy to humiliate these people, there's a moment where she buys him this big lunch and she says it's on her. What would you have her buy you?
Who, me?
Yeah,
the $1.19 special.
Yeah, because I mean she's splurging for lunch, so and Lou takes advantage of it. So I would get I'd get like 3 or 4 pizzas, some ice cream, and maybe like a couple of chicken fingers. I don't know. I just go all out.
I'd ask for the money instead, I think.
Yes.
Oh yeah, that'd be good.
It's like a buy Blu-rays. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just kind of hungry. So food.
I'd have my laptop there and I'd put it onto the Scream Factory website and just.
Well, if you had a laptop in 1980, people would be like, "Wow, you must come from the future."
Well, yes.
On a more serious note, on something more serious, do you think that Kim and Nick stayed together at the end? I mean, now the secret's out.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Well, is the secret out though? Because because do they know why? Did it actually
Nick,
come out?
Well, he almost like told her earlier in the movie, so I think especially now, I don't think he'd be able to live with it without telling her the truth. So I imagine that he would have just told her. Because, I mean, she'd want to know why her brother wanted to kill her boyfriend.
Well, yes, you would have thought so. But also, I was quite impressed how Alex multitasked through the end of the movie. Not only being a DJ, but being a killer as well, which must have taken some planning, don't you think?
Yeah.
I've never, on a more serious note, I've never really been drawn to the balaclava look. It's not, I don't know, it's not slasher movie enough for me. I would have preferred, I don't know what I would have preferred, but I just don't think he has the je ne sais quoi.
What if he dressed like a prom king? He wore like a robe and a crown and like a skull mask or something.
Cool. I'd be on for that. Yeah.
Right.
I thought it was. What about Kelly's death? Because I thought that was great. She's a very kind of pitiful, sad character, isn't she? Because you had
she reminds me of I can't think of the actress's name in Hostel 2.
Oh yeah.
Oh, Heather Matarazzo.
Yes. Yeah.
Because it's kind of weird, wasn't it? Because all of the girls in it, you got Wendy and you've got, is it Jude, who was they're much more sexually advanced, aren't they? They're much more, but you see Kelly's breasts, don't you? It's kind of a weird thing. The only breasts you see in the movie are from Kelly, who stopped her boyfriend having sex with her, and then she gets murdered. So
and nothing happens to him. I wish that something would have happened to him.
Well, I suppose
he was kind of a jerk.
He was a jerk, but he wasn't part of he didn't cause the death, did he, of Robin?
That's true.
In the original.
Well, he could have been like Seymour Crane. He could have been like collateral damage.
Yes, that's true. I mean, I just thought it was a sad death, because normally in slasher movies it's all about the kind of the body count and the kind of the fun of seeing people die, but I thought her death was actually particularly pitiful, wasn't it? Because she didn't even she didn't even lose her virginity, did she, before being murdered? So that was sad. Yeah, that
could be a good top 3 saddest slasher movie deaths.
Yeah. Yes, that could be good.
Well, but Alex's death at the end would be another one for the top 3.
Yeah,
I think.
That's a good one.
That is true. That's true. I mean, did you see all that kind of stuff when Kelly's killed? Right before it, and you see the killer's feet walking towards her.
Yeah, that's reused later, isn't it? In the
I think it was taken from a later shot and then dropped into that, and it was kind of had some kind of processing over it. Didn't it look really grey? It was almost like inverted, but not quite. So it was kind of, it was strange, wasn't it? That they kind of, that's why I think this film must have had quite a lot of post production tampering with the extra scenes that went in it. And of course there are all the other scenes which we'll finally get to see, and you can see them on YouTube, which is the TV version of Prom Night, which has scenes with Leslie Nielsen's character's secretary, the kind of the barmy secretary eating bananas and doing yoga.
Doing aerobics.
Yeah, doing aerobics. And then you've got the other scene, the note passing scene in class and things like that, which weren't in the original. So they would have, again, those are the things that probably were taken out to put in the, so they had room to put in the telephone calls and the escape killer subplot, because I can't remember what the running time of this movie is, but they probably want to stick it exactly at about 89, 90 minutes, didn't they?
My DVD is 1 hour, 29 minutes and 10 seconds.
Okay, right. So, yeah, pretty much 90 minutes then, yeah.
Eric, you know that part with Slick where he keeps his marijuana? That little, do you have one of those for, like, Twix bars?
I don't really need to hide my Twix addiction. Oh. So, no.
Darn.
Yeah.
I mean, what's... okay, well, let's talk a little bit about background. So, and we can talk a little bit more about the movie as we go on. So, Nathan, do you have anything for us?
No. The sequel, which has really nothing to do with the original Prom Night, does at least take place at the same high school, apparently. So that's all I have.
Okay.
Because the sequel's Hamilton High.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that, Nathan. What about you, Joseph?
Yeah, actually, Hamilton High is the link for all 4 Prom Night movies. Aside from Brock Simpson, he's the only actor who appeared in all 4 Prom Night movies, but Hamilton High is the one setting that all the Prom Night movies have in common. David Mucci, who played Lou, had a serious medical condition. He was forced to be immobilized underneath the stage for the scene in which Lou's decapitated. He was terrified that something would happen while he was trapped there, so Paul Lynch, the director, would hold his hand during the duration of the filming just to assure him that everything was going to be okay. In one of the several scenes removed from the theatrical version of the movie, Principal Hammond takes his wife to visit Dr. Fairchild after a visit to Robin's resting place at the cemetery. As Vivian is seated in the office and the men talk privately in the hallway, it is revealed that Robin and Alex are twins. Let's see. According to director Paul Lynch, in the documentary Going to Pieces, The Rise and Fall of the Slasher Film, he was having difficulty securing financing until Jamie Lee Curtis signed on. Once the film was shot, Paramount expressed interest in distributing the movie, probably because Jamie Lee signed on. However, they only wanted to open it in 300 theaters, whereas Avco Embassy Pictures offered to release it in 1,200 theaters. As a result, Avco Embassy released Prom Night. That same year, Paramount released another independent slasher film, Friday the 13th. And the line, it's not who you come with, it's who takes you home, appears in all the Prom Night movies. That's another link between all 4 of them. And I think that's all I have.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Joseph. How about you, Eric?
Okay, well, the film was shot in August and September of 1979 on a budget of $1.6 million, which means it was shot around the same time as Friday the 13th. It was shot in Toronto at a college called Don Mills Collegiate. Is that how you pronounce it? What happened with the film is that in the spring of 1979, director Paul Lynch approached Irwin Yablans, who had produced Halloween, and he came to him with a pitch for a psycho-gynecologist movie called Don't See the Doctor. Yablans wasn't interested, so the following week he pitched Prom Night to him instead. And this time, Irwin Yablans got on board and said, "Yeah, that sounds good. We must meet for further, discussion on this." In the meantime, he met up with producer Peter Simpson, showed him what he had, which at that stage was just a poster of a knife in a heart and the title Prom Night. So the two of them went into business together to produce the film. So it came close to actually being produced by Irwin Yablans at one stage. The script was written by Robert Guza Jr., who also wrote the script for Curtains, one of our favourite films, which was also produced by Peter Simpson, who did Prom Night. Peter Simpson had actually worked with one of Halloween's lead actresses in 1978. Nancy Loomis was in his film Sea Gypsies. It was a film she shot just right before she filmed Halloween. Paul Lynch originally wanted Eve Plum for the role of Kim. Now, who is Eve Plum, I hear you ask? Well, it's only Jan from the Brady Bunch, which I'm sure would have made probably the film even more appealing to Justin. Is it just the Brady Bunch movies, or did you like the TV series as well, Justin?
Oh, I grew up on the Brady Bunch, yeah.
But Jamie Lee Curtis was quite enthusiastic because at this stage she'd only done Halloween. She'd have filmed The Fog, but it hadn't yet been released, and she'd heard about this film through her agent, and she was enthusiastic, so she contacted the producers about possibly getting involved. And the only audition she had to do for them was to prove her dancing skills, which were fine because she had been trained as a dancer earlier in her career. She was also happy that she was offered 3 times what she was paid for The Fog. Now, I mean, I'd be quite happy to dance my tits off for, I think it was 60 grand she got. Brock Simpson, yes, you were saying he's in all 4 films. In Prom Night 1, he plays the young Nick in the prologue to the film, one of the kids who's playing the Killers Are Coming. Robert Silverman plays Sykes the janitor. He's a recognisable Canadian actor. I'd know him best probably from Scanners, the David Cronenberg movie, where he plays that weird sort of conceptual artist dude. In this, he plays the spooky janitor, and he was actually just recovering from years of physiotherapy after being involved in a serious car accident. So according to the book Going to Pieces, they describe his performance as, quote, authentic, meaning that he looked a bit odd and strange because of his, his recovery. Justin hinted at this earlier. Jamie Lee Curtis wasn't happy about the additions made to the film in post-production. I'm not 100% sure why, because the film, even without the sinister phone calls and the police subplot investigation of the escape killer, it still was kind of a Halloween clone. So I'm not sure, what her complaint is. I mean, but I know that for a fact she doesn't really like this film because in issue 15 of Fangoria, they do an interview with her when she's publicising Road Games, and she refers to Prom Night as disco death. And she says she thinks it's the worst film she'd done at that stage. She probably since then she's changed her mind. She thinks that Virus from 1999 is her least favourite film she's in, which I don't. Well, it is pretty bad, but in kind of a good way, I think. But she admitted that she owed a debt to the film because it was, part of the stepping stones to her big career that would blossom, from Trading Places onwards. Sylvia Martin, who plays Mrs. Cunningham. Now, I'm not sure who Mrs. Cunningham is in the film. I'd need to watch it again. Does anyone know who she is in the film?
No.
But that's Eddie Benton's real life mother, whoever Mrs. Cunningham is in Prom Night.
Well, maybe she plays Wendy's mother.
That's the housekeeper we see, though, isn't it?
Oh, is it? Okay, yeah.
Is it?
Right. I don't know, or a grandma or something, because she's quite old, isn't she?
Anyway, Casey Stevens, who plays Nick, he lied to the casting people that he could dance when he couldn't, and apparently it was quite hard work getting him to do the sort of minimal moves he had to do on the dance floor with Jamie Lee. A lot of films had to be shot with Jamie Lee sort of masking his ineptitude on the dance floor. As part of a bonding session on set, Jamie Lee Curtis took Michael, is it Tuff or Michael Tock? I'm not sure how you pronounce his name.
Tuff.
Who plays Tuff, he plays Alex. Jamie Lee Curtis took him bra shopping in Toronto.
Okay.
I'm sure it's something that we'd all like to do. No, maybe not, I don't know.
We actually almost got an interview with Michael Tuff a while back, but he never wrote back.
Because he's also in Skullduggery, which is a film we recovered. He's very, he has a blink and you miss it role in Skullduggery. Jamie Lee Curtis dated Casey Stevens briefly on the set of the film. Casey Stevens sadly went on to die of an AIDS-related illness in 1987. Avco Embassy released 250 prints of the film in July 1980, and it took about $15 million in its initial run. Justin probably has more precise figures about how it did in the end. The character who played Drew is played by Jeff Wincott, and he is the older brother of Michael Wincott, who's, I know, another familiar face. Off the top of my head, the only
guy talks like this.
Yes, he's in The Crow, I know that, but and he's in lots of stuff. I think he's in, what else?
Strange Days.
Yes, yeah. He's in lots of stuff anyway. That's his older brother who plays the nasty Drew, who wants to get into Kelly's knickers with no success. Let's see. I also have the differences here in the TV edit to the theatrical cut. You don't see Robin in Australia. This is a strange one. In the prologue, you don't see Robin hitting the glass pane, but as she falls out the window. But then later in the flashback, when at the very end, where Alex is stumbling out the door and is faced by the police, they show the scene there instead. So I don't know why they cut it from the start. Let's see, what else was there? There's a scene where Kim talks to the weird secretary about, the Leslie Nielsen's whereabouts. And she says he's been gone all afternoon. And Kim's like, oh, that's strange, because he normally drives me home. I think we're supposed to, that sort of hammers home the red herring that Leslie Nielsen, I suppose, was supposed to be. And then when Kim gets home, he's chopping axe and looking a bit sinister, and he's responding to her in a monosyllabic manner. There's these bizarre cuts to anything even vaguely sexual, either in terms of dialogue or boobies. There's a scene where Kim sticks her head out the door to see if there's anyone around after the mirror is shattered, and she has her quite ample bosoms on display. Like, she has a top on, but you can see her cleavage quite clearly, and that shot is optically zoomed in for the TV version, so you can't see her cleavage, because that would drive all the kids insane, apparently. And all the references that Slick and Jude make, and I mean, there's a huge chunk of that scene missing. Any reference they have made to sex are completely removed, yet they're quite happy to show them smoking joints for some reason. This is the attitude back then. I mean, God knows what the TV companies would have made of things like Breaking Bad and The Sopranos. And I think that's all I have for background.
Okay.
Justin?
Yes, okay, well, thank you. I mean, you've covered a lot of what I was going to say, but that's all good.
Sorry.
No, that's all good. A couple of other things I picked up was that when they filmed at a real high school, which I think you mentioned, Erik, but it was over the summer. So it was closed for business as normal, but they got 250 extras from a local summer school to come in and dance, and they must have danced and danced and danced because, as you said, Casey Stevens, I think if you watch the film knowing he couldn't dance, you can see a lot of it's done with clever editing, isn't it? He's obviously not a natural on the dance floor. Leslie Nielsen was actually Canadian, which I didn't know until I looked into this, and he said that a lot of the publicity was talking about the big American film star coming up to Canada, and he said, well, people forgot I was actually from Canada in the first place, and it's obviously one of his last movies, non-comedy roles. But if you've seen, I mean, I knew him best probably from Poseidon Adventure, previous to that, outside of things like Aeroplane and all the kind of comedy roles he did. Casey Stevens I've got the Avco MC. Basically, it's the booklet which talks about the advertising manual, and it's got little mini interviews with some of the cast. And Casey Stevens talks about how he couldn't dance, but he was soon doing flips and far out moves, which sounds like a bit antiquated talk for 1980, doesn't it? Yeah. Because what I have learnt is obviously these fluff pieces in the advertising manuals usually have no relation to reality, and they're written by other people. So it kind of strikes me that a teenager in 1980 wouldn't be talking about far out moves, would they? But that's what it says in there for him. The film, it was sold in two ways. It was sold primarily to a female teenage audience. And there's a difference in the way that it was sold as a disco movie, because disco was very hot property prior to the release of this film. So you had obviously Saturday Night Fever in 1977 was a massive success, and a lot of people tried to get in there. You've got things like Xanadu, which was a massive flop, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't. It was a big blockbuster hit. It made $7 trillion million of the movies.
Well, it was such a flop apparently because it cost $20 million to make that they had to sell it with what was his name, Gene
Kelly.
That's it. They kind of bigged up his two little mini appearances in the film as the main selling point when disco started tanking. So you had other films like Roller Boogie with Linda Blair, again,
another disco, great movie,
which are tanked as well at the box office because of the disco thing. I mean, I love it, but the fact is that by the time Prom Night came out, the whole disco was basically passé. really. Now, for us, when we're looking back at it from here, we just don't realise that because we're obviously not in 1980. But apparently, when the film was coming out, they were really worried about it because they thought it was going to be a massive success. Based more on the disco stuff. So what they sold it to a female audience as a kind of female-led film, which it is really, isn't it? Most of the main characters are female. Most of the protagonists are female. The male characters kind of circle the female cast, really, don't they, in terms of importance? They're not as important and not given as much screen time as the female characters. So the film was, but they also said that they did different trailers for the film to emphasize. That's the word I'm looking for. Yeah. The horror elements, so that teenage boys wouldn't be alienated. So that's why the film resonated with both sexes, and I think that's why it did earn around about 15 million. So it was actually, I think, the highest grossing Canadian movie in Canada, I think, in 1980. So it did very well. It wasn't a massive hit compared to Friday the 13th, which I think grossed something like 40 million. It made 15 million, which is still pretty good on a kind of a 1.6 million budget. I think you've covered a lot of the other stuff. I'm just having a quick look to see if there's anything else.
Well, one other thing was that I read was that the producers were toying with the idea of making the soundtrack rock rather than disco, because they could sort of sense that disco was possibly on the wane.
Right.
So I'm imagining that if they went the rock route, it would probably be that new wave rock that is in something like New Year's Evil, which would have made it a good movie as well. But I think disco suits it best.
Oh no, I do as well. I love the soundtrack. I think the soundtrack's fantastic. But from our point, of view looking back, we don't see. I think there was a kind of panic with like. All these kind of like Xanadu and The Apple and all these films that kind of hadn't done very well. So there was a sense of desperation, but the film still did pretty well. I think one of the biggest surprises actually was the film was fairly well received by critics. And I think that was partly to do with the fact is it isn't a particularly graphic movie. And there was two reasons for that. One was they didn't want to alienate the female audience, so they didn't go down the gross-out gore route of Friday the 13th. But also apparently there was a squeamishness in Canadian filmmaking about horror, because apparently David Cronenberg's Shivers had caused a real outrage from state-funded, because there was a whole thing around tax shelters and Canadian funding, government funding, and apparently Shivers had caused such an outrage that Canadian horror movies were kind of not dumbed down, but weren't particularly gory. So that was one of the reasons why the critics, apparently, even I think Gene Siskel or Roger Ebert, were kind of said the film was very tasteful in that regard. Now, a couple of little quotes from reviews. There's Mike Hughes in the Gannett news service says, "Let's get one thing straight right away. The movie Prom Night now at the Capitol is going to make a mountain of money." He says Lynch restrains the on-camera gore until a single awesome, shattering scene near the finish. That's the one the kids will be talking about afterwards. The one will help this movie make a mountain of money. And then there was Joan Waterfield in The Lethbridge on the 13th December 1980 says, "Cheapy thrillers generally offer a dreary reception of old horror cliches. Motel Hell is a prime example, with victims lured to their deaths and the grisly killer smoking and selling the human meat. Shades of Sweeney Todd, A Cut, if you'll forgive the pun. Above this type of garbage is a neat little film called Prom Night." There was also what was interesting actually also was that the director, Paul Lynch, was now he at the time when the film came out, he was really very dismissive of it. He said of the film, it's an axe in the face picture. I did Prom Night because I was washed up in the industry after Blood and Guts, which was badly distributed. One does a prom night to survive. So basically...
Well, then why did he do Humongous?
Well, exactly. He obviously did that to survive as well, didn't he? But it says that he said he expects to make a bundle from Prom Night. So there's also Vincent Canby from New York Times says the most noteworthy thing about the movie is that although the murders are ghoulish, Lynch chooses to underplay the bloody spectacle. This isn't to say that there aren't some sticky moments, including one not especially convincing decapitation, but more often than not the camera cuts away or the screen goes discreetly grey before the audience is drenched in gore. This may or may not be the reason that the audience with which I saw the film booed at the end. Now, I'm just going to talk a little bit briefly about the advertising manual, because in it they say, and I've never seen one, and I am going to be on the lookout for this now. Now, apparently, distributed to certain theatres was a scream, sort of scream into your pillow, sort of satin pillow that was given to female moviegoers going to see Prom Night. And they've, on the advertising manual, it says "Fears on my pillow," and it says a highlight of Avco Embassy's mortuary of deadly effective accessories for prom night is a pink and black satin scream pillow, guaranteed to muffle the most ear-splitting shrieks to terror. So, if anyone's ever come across a prom night scream pillow, then please let me know.
Prom night pillow biter.
Yes, well, I imagine you've screamed into a pillow, Erik, in your time, haven't you?
I'm a man of very few words when it comes to this topic.
Right. What else we've got? There was basically they said that to capitalise on the rapidly diminishing disco theme, they said the theme for prom night is terror, and your lobby decor should reflect the murderous motif. Make your theatre look like a deadly dance floor in prom night, where the chilling action explodes. Start by suspending a revolving mirror ball from your ceiling, bathed in the blood-red hue of a baby spotlight. Stretch twisted crepe paper from the walls, doors and ceiling, and prop up one group of corpse-like mannequins on chairs in one corner with a placard that reads "Chaperones." And then it goes on to say, have some shocking fun with patrons by instructing an employee to sit perfectly still alongside the stiff figures. Then, when an unsuspecting moviegoer passes by your display, your living corpse can lurch out screaming, "May I see your stubs, please?" or "Welcome to prom night." So, I don't know whether anyone did any of these things, but wouldn't that be fantastic to go to a cinema where people did those kind of things?
Yes, so, make a nice change.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But yeah, there's loads more on here. But I might scan some of these in and put them up on Facebook so people can enjoy them. But yes, all good stuff. So, is there anything else left to say about prom night?
Can I just say that I didn't want to say this in Recently Seen for obvious reasons, but I watched the remake finally as well, the 2008 Prom Night, which is very much in the name only. It has no connection at all to the 1980 movie. I didn't think it was as bad as I was expecting. I thought it was on the same. Now you're going to hate me even more when I say this. I thought it was on the same level as the Sorority Row remake, which I didn't really like. Really? Yeah.
Well, to be fair, I've never seen the whole of the Prom Night remake because I think I said before the disco
DVD spat it out.
Yeah, spat it out. So obviously had better taste than you have, Erik.
Yeah.
But, you still like to eat Kit Kats.
True. Is that you? The weird thing about the Prom Night remake, well, not the weird thing, the thing that goes against the grain of other slasher movies is that the killer's identity is made clear in the opening scene. There's no masked killer. It's just a psychotic man without a mask who just goes around killing people, which, I much prefer a bit of mystery. Even if the mystery is blatantly obvious, I still prefer my killers to be sort of in the shadows until the final reel.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, Jake Helgren's Bloody Homecoming is a better remake in the loosest possible terms of Prom Night than the Prom Night remake is by a long shot. I mean, the other film which I haven't seen for ages was obviously the Prom Night 2 and Prom Night 3 are fun in their own ways, but they're very much late 80s kind of video fodder, aren't they? Although they
and Prom Night 4, don't forget.
Well, no, I was going to say the Prom Night 4 is a bit more of a return to the roots, isn't it? It's a slasher movie, whereas Prom Nights 2 and 3 are kind of body count movies, but not really slasher movies, are they?
Yeah, it's supernatural killer in the vein, I suppose, of Freddy.
Yeah. But yeah, Prom Night 4's one I'd quite fancy rewatching at some point because I think that was made in Hungary, wasn't it, or somewhere in Eastern Europe, pretending to be America. But
I haven't watched it yet. I do have a copy of it, but I haven't watched it yet. So I look forward, if it's a change back to regular slasher movie-ness, then I'll definitely watch it. Yeah.
I imagine, Nathan, you're probably a fan of 2 and 3.
Oh yes, I'm a fan of all the prom nights.
What would you? How would you rate? Would you say the first one is your favourite?
Oh yes, I mean the first one is the best one because I'm a slasher fan at heart, and I always will be. But 2 and 3, I think you're right as far as just late '80s fun, like they are. It's not. They're not. Obviously, they're very tongue in cheek, just silly, campy movies. So yeah, I love them.
Cool. What about you, Joseph?
Man, I barely remember prom nights 2 through 4, so I couldn't tell you.
Okay, no worries. Well, I think that's kind of prom night. I've got the last thing to play out with before we get on to feedback is I have another TV trailer. Let's play that. Here we go.
These are the girls of Hamilton High. Tonight they'll be more beautiful than ever before in their lives. Because tonight is prom night. And someone will come to the prom alone just to watch them dance, to see them fall in love, to see them die. Prom night. If you're not back by midnight, you won't be coming home. Rated R.
Starts Friday at a theater or drive-in near you. Check your newspaper for showtime.
Fantastic. I love those old trailers. It's actually what's interesting. Just like I was looking at the accessory book here, and there's a lot of the stuff. A lot of the taglines that were used on later movies were used here a lot. There's lots about get dedicated, or where's all the other things? There's no, I can't find any of them. But there's all sorts of things like don't lose your head, make a date to see prom night. It's a nightmare of the year when the music rocks and heads roll. It's just like a million brilliant sort of taglines. They've also I Survived Prom Night as well, which they reused for buttons for graduation day as well. Which cool. lots of great stuff. So anything else to say about prom night?
Well, go ahead, Eric.
I was going to say it's time for my joke of the day. Surely.
What happened? You sound weird.
Yeah,
you do too.
You sound weird as well.
Gosh, have you all gone underwater? Do I sound all right?
Strange.
You sound okay,
sound
Justin.
Fine.
Well, let me.
You sound fine now, Eric.
Let me stop. Okay. Let me stop and phone you back. Hold on.
Okay.
Right. Well, it's time for some feedback. Well, actually, before we do that,
my joke of the week.
Yes. How can we forget?
I have one as well.
Oh,
yay, it's 2 jokes of the week.
What a treat. What a treat.
Yes. Okay, here's my one. What should horror fans do when they meet the ultimate Scream Queen?
I don't know.
They should Jamie Lee Curtisy.
Did you say courtesy?
Curtsy.
Curtsy, like bow.
I know what it was. But sorry, I thought you said Jamie Lee Curtisy.
Yeah, well, it's meant to be curtsy.
Okay. Gosh.
Like cropsy.
Like cropsy.
It was good, wasn't it?
It was fantastic, yes.
Thanks.
It actually made me laugh.
Yes. Well, let's see.
Thank you, Nathan.
Let's see if Joseph gets the funeral march or...
Well, if I get anything, I'd rather have the ding, that bell sound. But
I'm not sure if I've... Go on.
What if Jamie Lee Curtis and Alan Dale got together? What would they do?
I dread to think.
They would watch Neighbors.
You can see what the trouble is, can't you?
I do apologise. I don't think I've got the clip with the tumbleweed, but I would play that. Do you know what I'm playing that? It's because every time you make a joke about Jamie Lee Curtis, that it's less likely she's going to come on the show.
Yeah, well, that will be my first and only joke of the week.
Okay. Well, we're thankful for small mercies.
But I will mention that Alan Dale was in Neighbours.
Thank you. Well, let's move swiftly on to how to get in contact with the show.
Be sure to search for and like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter at THC_podcast. Our voicemail is 858-233-9281. And you can email us directly at the.hysteria.continues@gmail.com.
Okay, yes, so get in touch with the show if you've got anything to say.
You need to change that, Joseph.
Yeah, it's time for a new one.
I think you need to change the music for every episode that we do and use music from whatever movie we're talking about.
I'm gonna do that, yeah.
Something tells me you're not going to do that, are you?
Can you imagine, though, like prom night, the disco music behind what he's saying? That'd be awesome.
That would be good. But I can't see that happening.
Anyway,
do you have any mascara?
I guess I'll go first.
Enough. Yes, go ahead, Joseph.
Okay, this is from Andrew Rooney. He says, "Hi, team. So good to have you back last week. I was honored to be a part of the technical difficulties last week. Yes, indeed, that was an old email you read out, probably sent well over a month ago. I'm very pleased that this next episode will feature one of the big ones, in inverted commas. To be honest, I was a bit sick of little ones. I know Nathan especially likes little ones. But I get the feeling Erik and Justin were hanging out for a big one to satisfy their needs. I don't like to be a naysayer, but I consider Prom Night as a second-tier slasher. It has great kitsch value with the outfits, particularly Jamie Lee when she puts her dressage on for prom. You could say it's the stuff nightmares are made of. Sorry for the horsing around, Nathan. I didn't want to stir up too much emotion. You're still my main man. Jamie Lee won't be listening. She's too highbrow anyway, making her crappy comedies.
Bad puns, her comedies.
Bad puns and filth aside, I watched The Borderlands on Justin's recommendation. Absolutely loved it. I thought found footage was done, but I actually couldn't fault it. So creepy and proves with a little thought and talent, you can still make a solid film on a low budget. The part where he deals with the chav had me cheering in my seat. Anyway, more big ones and less little ones, please. Still waiting on Friday Part 5, the Deluxe Showtime edition, and The Mutilator. Great to have you guys back. Take care. Andrew Rooney.
Well, thank you, Andrew, and thank you for writing in. And at least we read out the right one this time.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Andrew, but I'm only focused on little ones. That'll be up to Justin and Erik to pick the larger films.
Yes. You're all about the underdog, aren't you?
Somebody's got to love them.
Yes. Well, and I think that's the perfect balance, isn't it? And also we knew that if we took on all the big ones to start off with, then we'd be worn out, long before we got to this point. So we decided to, otherwise we'd just end up with doing Crazy Fat Ethel 42, wouldn't we?
Oh, if we're so lucky.
Well, yes, there is that. So,
speaking of Crazy Fat Ethel, Levi Olson has just, while we've been recording, has put on our Facebook page, "Dear Nathan, I'm watching Criminally Insane Part 2. I love it."
Awesome.
So there you go.
There you go. Wow.
Well, his name is Levi, so he has to be a little crazy.
God. See, Joseph insults celebrities and our listeners.
Like Joseph's like the insulting guy. He insults everybody every episode.
Yes.
Hey, come on. I think Levi is a great guy. For me to poop on.
Right. Well,
that's your
thank
cup of
you.
tea.
Yes. Well, but taking it down to the back to the poop. So, Erik, have you got anything for us?
I've got a big one.
Okay.
This is from Corey in Colorado. I'm thinking it might be Corey Feldman. I'm hoping it's Corey Feldman.
Wow. Okay.
How's it going, fellas? Did you know that Alan Dale was in cheerleader camp? I didn't know that. Who would have guessed there was a connection? Thank you for the houseboat horror episode, even if that was the worst movie you reviewed since Crinoline Head. Honestly, that's the worst movie you guys have reviewed. How could any of you, besides Nathan, of course, remotely appreciate that turd? And that's referring to Crinoline Head, which I thought was actually kind of fun.
Yeah.
So,
what is Crinoline Head?
Crinoline Head.
Yes. You keep saying Crinoline Head.
Sorry, Crinoline Head.
God.
Carry on. And we're back. We're having some Skype issues, so I think the sound may be a bit. It's kind of. I think we're in a kind of like some kind of weird sort of found footage kind of horror movie at the moment, where everything going wrong and sound issues. So so apologies for that. Where were you up to, Erik? Were you
okay? I'm into the second paragraph of this email. Okay, so anyway, this is from Corey in Colorado, possibly Corey Feldman. I know it's not Corey Haim.
No.
He says Corey says, anyway, my main reason for writing is to tell you about an awesome horror film festival I attended last week. It's called the Stanley Film Festival. This is only the second year, so it's still in its infancy, but my wife and I had a great time. It's mostly held at the Stanley Hotel in Estes Park, Colorado. Have I pronounced that correctly, American colleagues?
I don't know.
Never heard of it.
Okay. Anyway, it's the hotel that was Stephen King's inspiration for the Overlook in The Shining. The Kubrick movie wasn't shot there, but the shitty TV movie and Dumb and Dumber were. Even so, it's a great location for a horror film festival. Plus, it's only 45 minutes from my house. We saw lots of great movies, even if only a couple of them were even close to slashers, and there were even a few celebrities to boot. I walked past Joe Dante in the lobby, and are you ready for this, Nathan? You'll like this one. Where is it? I told Elijah Wood I loved Maniac.
Oh, yes. Elijah Wood. So cute.
And I saw Ty West talk about The Sacrament. If you're interested, here's a list of all 13 movies we got to see with a short review of each. So if you want to interrupt me at any stage, guys, if you've seen any of these, the Babadook, which is a great creepy Aussie boogeyman movie, one of my favorites of the festival. No one has seen it. No.
I've seen the trailer
Late Phases, which is a cheap US werewolf flick. Lots of washed-up actors. One of the two worst of the festival. Open Windows. It's an okay gimmicky thriller starring Elijah Wood.
No.
And directed by Nacho Vigalondo of Time Crimes fame. Oh, so there you go. Ooh. The entire movie is seen as though on a laptop screen. Sasha Grey gets naked, so there's that. I don't know who Sasha Grey is.
She's a porn star.
What? No wonder she gets naked then. Yeah. The Green Inferno. This was the secret screening. It was Eli Roth's new flick. Gory as hell. Basically cannibal holocaust without the animal torture. The first third is pretty boring. Nobody seen that yet?
No.
Dead Snow. Red versus Dead. I'm assuming this is the sequel to Dead Snow. Gory, funny, but goes on too long. Ragnarok, which is a decent Norwegian monster movie. Probably the only movie suitable for children. Mobius, a South Korean movie with no dialogue. Genital mutilation, anyone? Anyone who likes some genital mutilation? Justin?
I think I'll pass on that.
Okay. Housebound, New Zealand supernatural flick with slasher bits, funny as well. I think maybe he means funny as hell. Anyone seen Housebound or heard of Housebound from New Zealand?
Housebound horror? Housebound horror?
Alan Dale in it. Okay, The Strange Colour of Your Body's Tears, which is beautifully shot, giallo homage. Fucking awful though, no narrative at all. Most slasher of all the movies, my least favourite of the weekend. Now, I saw Strange Colour of Your Body's Tears, and yeah, I would agree. It's absolutely no narrative, and I'm glad I saw it on the big screen where its visuals and soundtrack could sort of overwhelm me a bit to just paper over its cracks, but I wasn't a big fan. Have you seen it yet, Justin?
No, I've not seen it. I liked Amir, but...
yeah, apparently Amir is supposed to be a slightly more coherent. Strange Colour of Your Body's Tears, I couldn't make head nor tail of. It's like the last half hour of Hausu.
Right, okay, all the way through. Yeah, okay, fair enough.
Next one is Blood Glacier, an Austrian monster movie, very much an homage to Carpenter's The Thing. I liked it, but the effects were a little lacking. Now, I saw this one as well back in October under an alternate title, The Station, and I thought it was really good. Has anyone seen Blood Glacier yet?
Yeah, I saw it on
you saw it,
pay-per-view. Yeah, I thought it was good. It's good fun.
Yeah, it's good fun. Mm-hmm. And it's got a nice man with the beard in the lead. No? No. Okay. The Sacrament, Ty West's new movie. I'm reading a book about Jim Jones right now, and I kept seeing so many similarities in the stories that it was distracting. It's good, but it's definitely not an original story. I haven't heard anything about The Sacrament, I have to say.
Yeah, I've heard about it. It's kind of, it sounds exactly just like a Jim Jones sort of not a biopic, but be worth checking out. I like his...
It's found footage, isn't it?
Is it?
Yeah, I think it's a found footage movie.
Okay.
It's one for Joseph. Starry Eyes, interesting US movie about the quest for fame. A few slasher-ish kills. And then Nothing Bad Can Happen, a German movie, not horror, but the most disturbing of the weekend, the one that will stick with me the longest, probably my favourite. There was a program of shorts we watched as well, but there was only one worth mentioning, Box Room. If you get a chance to see it, please do. So a great time was had by both of us for only $85 each, and we definitely will be attending again next year. Sorry for being so long-winded, and keep up the good work. Corey in Colorado. P.S. Please ask Nathan to stop saying "you know" so much.
You know? I didn't know I said that much.
I didn't either, to be honest. I think we all have stock phrases, I think, that we probably use a lot.
Oh, it's funny because I noticed that when talking to certain people, like there are certain people that just have the phrase that they use a lot, and I guess that's one of mine.
Mm-hmm. You know?
What's mine, I wonder?
You know?
Eric's is
Yeah, mine is definitely.
Gosh,
it's kind of hurtful to hear Justin Joseph say that, though.
I think it's very hurtful that Corey Feldman did not like my movie pick of Brennan Head and doesn't like my phrases.
Well, thank you, Corey, anyway.
Corey,
curtsy.
Whoa, who's
taking off?
Oh, I'm near the road, so it's got to happen.
Well, I think
it's such a professional show.
Well, this whole show has been sound effect city, hasn't it? Because some of the bits you haven't heard is that Skype's going all very strange, and then there was one bit where we were talking and it sounded like we were all underwater. And then there was another bit where Nathan disappeared, and then he came floating back in like Carol Ann from Poltergeist, and then disappeared again.
And all of you were talking to me in slow motion.
Yes. So we saved you from the worst of that, but who knows what could happen. It's not quite a Bloody Moon episode yet, but we're getting there. Well, thank you, Corey. That sounds like a good horror film festival. I'd love to go to a festival like that. I know Johnny Krug's at the Texas Frightmare, isn't he, at the moment? I've seen photos of him there. Because you guys have been
he
to
met the director of Night of the Demons.
Yes,
yeah,
that's right. But there's nothing really like that in the UK, and there probably isn't in Dublin, is there? I wouldn't have thought.
Well, we have our horror-thon every.
Oh, well, you do, but I mean, like a Texas Frightmare, like a big convention.
All right, thing. Yeah, no, not convention style. No, there is film festivals though.
But that sounds good. So, we've got another big one. We've got a voicemail. Should I play the voicemail, or who hasn't read anything out? I've got one to read out as well.
I've got one to read out too.
Okay. Well, should I do the voicemail and then come back to you, Nathan?
Okay.
Okay. Well, here is our big voicemail.
Hello, everyone. This is Rod Barnett. I'm one of the two hosts of the Nashi Cast, and I've been a fan. I've been listening to Hysteria Continues for quite some time, and I love the show. And I know that our show got mentioned many, many moons ago when there was a question of why in the world we were using music from the Giallo Eyeball as our intro music to a podcast about Paul Nashi. Originally, I didn't really have a damn good reason. But we recently covered Eyeball mainly because there are so many Spanish horror movie stars and actors and just basically actors and actresses that pop up in various Paul Nashi films. We recorded a podcast about Eyeball, and it seems that everybody's kind of covering Eyeball here lately. I know you guys did way back, and I remember listening to that one. But I tried really hard to keep myself from going back and listening to your show in prep for our show because I didn't want to cover anything. I didn't want to steal anything from you guys because I feel like I'd end up kind of taking some of the insights and brilliant ideas that you guys generally toss out and kind of folding them into what I say and do without attribution, and I would feel bad about it afterwards, especially if I got called on it. Anyway, guys, love the show, love what you're doing. And I've been listening. I need to look at the listing to figure out exactly how long I've been listening to you guys, but it's a couple of years now. And that's interesting in that I have not always been a particular fan of the slasher film. I'm a pretty recent convert to the genre, and probably switched. I guess I flipped over and became a fan somewhere in probably the mid-2000s, maybe a little bit earlier. But, I used to really dislike slashers, and now they hold a very special place in my black movie-loving heart. But I wanted to say, by the way, the most recent show, the lamentable Houseboat Aura episode Oh, not that the episode was lamentable, but my God, that movie sounds like somebody needs to put a stake through its chest. Oh, my God. I mean, honestly, that's the kind of slasher that I will never bother to watch. I'm glad that you guys are willing to collectively take a bullet and watch that thing, in some cases, for the second, third time. And, you know, the fact that my fellow Tennessean, well, one of the two fellow Tennessee natives actually really liked the movie is really scary, because everything that everyone had to say about it just made it seem as if it were somewhat like having a cheese grater dragged across your eyeballs. So I'm not really sure that I ever want to see that one, but that's okay. I want to thank you guys again for your show. You do wonderful work, and you're always entertaining. It's really difficult sometimes in podcasts when there are a number of hosts to keep everything straight and to make everything seem like, well, I know some of that's got to be through the magic of editing. I know editing our podcast is pure hell. I can only imagine what it's like trying to edit a podcast in which there are 4 participants. So kudos, Justin, because I'm assuming that you do most of the editing. But Nash, you got another got a mention for the film Exorcism, which we've also covered on the podcast a couple of years back. And it is set in Bristol, if memory serves, and Nashi does sport a pretty mighty beard in that film. He's got the supreme facial hair in that. It's fantastic. It's the kind of beard that you write home about, and you do DNA tests to see exactly who he's been talking with, if you know what I mean. And he's got a great wig in that one too. Now, she's one of those actors who always had the receding hairline from the beginning of his career, and so it's one of the great joys of our podcast to see exactly what style and level of awesomeness his wig reaches in each film. There are various hair pieces he's used over the decades, and it's always fun to track those. I wanted to say, I've got some ideas. I really don't want to see the top threes go away. I would like to see people write in or call in with new ideas for top threes, something inventive, something that might fire the imagination. Maybe you don't each do a top three. Maybe you collaborate. What do you think of the idea of possibly doing, let's try these, let's see, your 3 favorite over-splatter moments from a slasher film. In other words, your 3 favorite moments where the splatter really gets out of control, and it's kind of like watching somebody in a samurai movie get their arm lopped off. Hey guys, it's Rod from the Nash guys. I got cut off. I can't stop babbling. I hope you get both of these messages. I'm going to feel incredibly embarrassed if only one of these come through. But my ideas for possible top threes, I want the top threes to go away. Favorite over-splatter moment, a moment when in a slasher film where blood it's way over the top. There's so much blood that it becomes comic, and it's maybe not even intentional comedy. It's the kind of thing where you stare at it in embarrassment and go, what the fuck were they thinking? Maybe favorite haircut or hairstyle. Maybe that's something where you could get kind of, really epic with the discussion. How about favorite accidental death? A top 3 accidental deaths. Maybe that would be a collaborative one. I don't know. Maybe favorite death by car or truck, or even bus. I'm not gonna be prejudicial in my thought processes on what automotive vehicle would be chosen. Motorcycle would be good, but those are just some ideas for possible future top threes. Because, like I say, I don't want to see the top threes go away. I think any chance to get to hear the cat flushing the toilet song is a good thing. But this is Rod from the NaziCast, thanking you once again for the wonderful podcast, the wonderful entertainment. Get them out as often as you can, guys. If it's once a month, twice a month, however frequently you can do it, it's great. We just love listening to it. Thanks, guys.
Well, thank you, Rod, and thank you for noticing the wonderful editing that goes on.
You slave over. You spend hours slaving on the editing, don't you, Justin?
Well, it's funny enough. Actually, I don't really edit that much. I mean, sometimes when things go wrong, but normally I leave a lot of the fuck ups in because I think it adds a little bit of colour, and it just shows how professional we are most of the other time. But especially, I think this episode is going to prove quite how things can go horribly wrong. So I was half expecting when that voicemail ended that you would have all disappeared again, because I heard of that the the fateful Skype ping pong going on during that. But no, it's great, and it's lovely to hear from Nashicast. So I'm going to have to check out your eyeball episode. Because I can never get enough of Eyeball, and I do love Paul Naschy films, and I'd love for us to actually cover, maybe one of his kind of quasi giallos, like was it A Dragonfly for Each Corpse, and what's the other one? The
Blue Eyes for a Broken Doll.
Well, there's that one, and also the Seven Murders Scotland Yard. Is it?
Oh yeah,
yeah. So there's quite a few of them, but. Yes. Well, no, thank you for writing in and also phoning in, sorry, and for persevering after being tossed off. What?
Yes.
Yes. So
you're so bold.
Erik, you know what I meant.
You are.
Yes. No, but we do appreciate the voicemail, because we don't get very many of them, do we? So we'd like to get a few more. And we haven't heard from our friend who's always in the gym for a little while. So if you're out there, phone in.
He might have been murdered in the gym by the Happy Birthday to Me person,
or
like a robicide,
or killer workout. Yes.
Yeah.
Giant safety pin death.
Yes, there's a slasher for every occasion, as we know. So,
speaking of, it's not really a slasher movie, but I see Death Spa is coming to Blu-ray in June.
It's funny, isn't it, that all these different things coming to Blu-ray. You would think what would and what wouldn't come to Blu-ray. Yeah.
Night of Horror. I can't wait for that to come out on Blu-ray.
Yeah. Maybe we can do the commentary on that one. I don't know. So, yeah. Excellent. Okay. Well, Nathan, you've got one, haven't you?
Yes. It says, "Hey guys, awesome episode this past week. Houseboat Horror, as always. I just wanted to write real quick with a couple movie recommendations. First off, I happened to see In Fear during its tremendously brief theatrical run here in LA, and I thought it was wonderfully tense. I do agree it lost a bit of steam in the second half, but it kept me engaged and on the edge of my seat. I like the reliance on old school scares over overt gore. The other movie I wanted to mention is called Willow Creek. It's a found footage movie about Bigfoot directed by Bobcat Goldthwait from Police Academy fame, not on Curry Fry. It's out May 2nd in the UK, available in America on the 9th on video on demand, and a limited release. Yeah. It's absolutely worth checking out. P.S. Nathan and Joseph, congratulations on all the success you're finding with your movie. You guys certainly deserve it. Maybe Justin and Erik would get off their lazy arses and make something now, too. Until next time, Declan G."
Well, thank you, Declan. I imagine that Erik has made some movies in his time, but they're probably not the kind
what are you
want to watch.
insinuating?
I think we all know. Yes. 2 Bears in a Cup.
Well, yeah, and 2 Bears in a Cup 2, and then Anal Paprika 7.
Yes, well, that is true, yes. And Anal Paprika lives on, because we got a shout out in the latest Scream Queens podcast, I think. So I'm glad our influence lives on.
Yes.
So, how is the Night Before Easter going? Are you kind of still getting good feedback? I know you're getting some mixed reviews, but mostly erring on the positive side, aren't they? Encouraging.
Yeah, there's not been a negative review yet. I mean, there's been some mixed and, pointing out the obvious budgetary flaws. But so far, everyone seems to enjoy it for the most part.
Excellent. Well, that's good. And you're pressing ahead, aren't you, with Gory Graduation? I think you've got the Facebook site and everything up, haven't you?
Yeah, if there's any rich people who listen to our show and want to help us pay to rent out a school, we would love that, because we really want to find a school. So we're going to try to raise the budget to do that.
I guess if you kind of shot over the summer, like Prom Night did, then that would be easier, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it's not so much, we will have to shoot during the summer, but there are a lot of hoops we're going to have to jump through, like signing papers with government offices, and you have to get insurance, et cetera. So
okay,
it'll be a struggle, but we're going to do it.
Yeah. We could always change it to Gory, I don't know, campsite or something.
Yeah. We actually talked about, if we cannot obtain a school, we're going to kind of figure out some kind of fallback position, but we're going to do whatever we can to get a school, like a high school.
How about if you can't get a school, what about a kindergarten?
Well, that's in a school.
Yeah. But that could be the whole new thing, couldn't it? Like a toddler slasher movie. That could be as bad taste as you could possibly get, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's all good.
I think Gory Graduation is going to be our big-time nod to prom night, maybe.
Excellent. Okay, well, yeah, so we'll look forward to the developments of that. And I've got another... Is this the last message? Have we all... Any more after this?
No, it's the last one, I think.
No, okay. Well, this is from Cameron Parry, and he says, "Good day, guys. I just wanted to drop you a quick one. Your last show was a fantastic tribute to my homeland, so well done, guys. Only saw Houseboat Horror back on the day on VHS. Not great, but any appearance from Alan Dale is welcome." And apparently he was in Neighbours. One of our finest acting experts. You mentioned Hey Hey It's Saturday, which was huge in the 1980s. In particular, I do remember Animal, the drummer, in the house band. I actually saw Brian Mannix on New Year's Eve at an 80s revival concert kind of thing a few years back. It was something. That's kind of damning and faint praise, I can guess. He's worth YouTubing. Yeah, okay. YouTubing? Yeah. And calling his band the Uncanny
Uncanny Lingus.
Oh dear. It's all this talk.
X-Men.
It's all this talk of Minge. The Uncanny X-Men. Clearly, the man was pop culturally ahead of his time. If you're into Aussie soap stars starring in horror films, Lord knows why you'd be, but I digress. Worth checking out is the 1993's Body Melt, which features Harold from Neighbours attempting to break type by swearing, etc. So I didn't know that Harold from Neighbours was in the horror movie.
I did.
Check that out.
Did you know that Harold was in Neighbours?
Oh, Joseph. And it says, we Aussies are a bit skimp on the slasher films, but we have produced a few, including 1990's Blood Moon, that offered a money-back guarantee about 2/3 through the movie. If you were too chicken to watch the end, then you could get your money back, which after initial hesitation, nearly everyone in the theatre I went to did. Good memories. That is probably quite badly judged, isn't it, if you're going to offer money back 2/3 of the way into the movie and then everyone gets up and leaves. Probably not a good move. Then he also goes on to say there was also 2000's Cut, which was so-so, but still had the death of Kylie Minogue as a selling point. To have a brief theatrical run, which I went to first day and again the following day, not so much as I was compelled to watch it again, but I thought it'd be great to see if more Aussie horror could be made, and I figured it probably needed a box office. So I've definitely supported Aussie films where possible. Anyway, this is only meant to be quick. I just wanted to congrats to the guys on the night before Easter. I'll rent it soon, promise, and give you my thoughts next time around. Take care, Cobbers, from Cameron Perry from Down Under. So
he forgot to mention Next of Kin, which is an excellent Australian slasher film.
Yes, and Nightmares, aka Stage Fright.
Yes, Nightmares actually has a Neighbours actress in it. She went on to be in Neighbours afterwards. She played Pam Willis, but she in Nightmares or Stage Fright, whatever it's called, she is completely naked as she's being killed.
Is she the one that gets slashed across the bottom with a shard of glass?
That's her.
And that was funny. Well, that's the link. That's the kind of the cheerleader camp link style link between Prom Night, wasn't it? Because Nightmares, Stage Fright had a killer who was killing with shards of glass, which of course they did in Prom Night as well.
Well, it's a mirror.
Mirror. Well, it was a mirror in both, wasn't it?
Oh, was it? You said shard of glass. Sorry.
Well, yeah. So it was a
mirror is glass. So
it's but it's got a silver coating in the back.
Oh, don't be so picky, Erik.
Semantics.
Yeah. Go and take a courtesy. Shut up. Right. Anyway, so thank you, Cameron.
Was that the funnest email you've ever read out? Sure, it's the funnest.
Oh dear, how we've missed this.
It's going to hell. Sure. I just heard Nathan's door beep again. This show is
people are coming in and out.
Is that a euphemism?
No, actually it wasn't. But if it makes me sound clever, then yes.
Okay.
It makes you sound slushy.
Yes, it does.
Okay, that's okay. I'll take that too.
Well, this is slowly descended into what it has descended into, but hopefully you've made some semblance of understanding, or you've enjoyed it for what it's become. But again, we would like to thank William. Gosh, what's that? How bizarre!
What?
Well,
What?
my autocorrect, it was William Neal, wasn't it? Who?
Yeah.
But my autocorrect has changed it to William Nell-Iwi. So there you go.
Nelly Wee.
It's Nelly-Wee. How bizarre!
Which is what you do into the lavatory.
It's with a little accent above the W. That's so. Even things going wrong, even like on my iPad now, we've got my notes on. It's everything. It's there's a ghost in the machine, I think. So anyway, I think we'll bring this rapidly to a close. But before we do, what are we up to next time, Erik?
Okay, well, next week it's the pick of Tony Ferns, and he has asked us to cover 1989's Hell High.
Yes, so staying in high school.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, so we shall look forward to that. Anything we'd like to say to the good people before we finish?
Prom night. Everything is all right.
Indeed.
No more being uptight.
Yeah. Absolutely. And we're going to play out with, probably, I think, have to play out with a theme to prom night, won't we?
But seriously, do you have any mascara?
I'll let you know afterwards.
I'm sure you do, Justin. You wear mascara on your night out.
Pardon?
Your black lipstick.
Oh, yes, the black lipstick, yeah.
Yeah, and your black mascara and your eyeliner. And
my black veil. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm glad to see that you're accepting your gothness.
He's admitting it now. It's on
yeah.
Yeah, I haven't done that for like 20 years.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. No, well, actually, I did do it one Halloween a few years ago, but we've already talked about this, haven't we? Erik, you're obsessed with my goth past, aren't you?
Yeah, because you're obsessed with my new romantic past. And
No, I'm
my
not.
romantic present.
No, I'm not.
And Joseph's obsessed with your Kit Kat obsession.
Yes.
What's calling? Because I'm hungry.
I'm starving.
And we're obsessed with your obsession with movies that no one else likes.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm winning you all over.
Well, that is true. Well, not all
When
of
is that
them.
going to begin, by the way?
No, I mean, there's been several times Justin has said that he liked the movies that I picked better this time around.
Yes. It wasn't the last one, though. What was the last one you did?
I don't remember the last movie I picked because we
Unhinged?
started doing the listener picks.
Oh, Unhinged.
No, that was a listener's pick.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
I think Crinlin Head might have been the last one that I picked.
Okay. Well, Hell High should be an interesting pick because I do have the video around here somewhere, so I'm gonna have to watch that before you record. But yes, we will be back, and so let's get on our dancing shoes and our sort of sequined hot pants. Erik, sure you've got a pair
And lovely pink frock.
Yes,
Which I'm sure you have one of.
Well, let's get down to the dance floor. And anyway, apologies for Erik and all the mess ups on this episode, but
It's all Eric's fault.
it's all Eric's fault. Yes.
What?
He's
What
cursed.
mix-ups?
He has a death curse on him, don't you, Erik?
Does somebody spray
Don't you, Erik?
deodorant?
Sorry.
What's it sound like?
Not
Sound like
me.
an aerosol. Sound like there was an
I'm
aerosol.
sitting in a chair.
I told you this episode is cursed. There's something going on. There's
I'm hearing
there's something
phantom
with it.
aerosols now.
Yes. Okay. Anyway, well, let's sign off. And as the Nashi cast can hear, we are the ultimate professional. Yeah. What is that?
There is the aerosol, the phantom aerosol.
It's
is.
Joseph.
That's Joseph.
Yeah.
I'm messing with Eric's mind.
Blimey. Right. Okay. Well, I might.
What an episode.
What an episode. Okay. Right. Well, thanks for listening, and we'll play out with some prom night disco madness, fantastic magic, and we'll see you next time for a spot of Hell High. So goodbye to the good people.
Bye.
Goodbye, good people. Good people.